Welcome back everybody to part 5 of our Starfox style rail shooter series in Unity. We've got all our ship controls and movement finished. Now it's time for some very efficient and economic shooting using object pools. So, when you're ready, don't mess up that R-wing. Let's crack on. Let's go and create our weapon, but before we do, I'd like you to go to the prefabs folder, double click weapons, and here you'll see all the ammunition we're going to use for all the weapon types, both player and enemy, for this project. We're going to focus on only two for now, that is the laser green and laser blue. Laser green will be our standard laser, and eventually we'll be able to power up to the more powerful blue laser, which we'll call plasma for this project, via weapon pickups, which we'll look at in the next video. A point to note, both the laser green and laser blue are all on the laser layer, just like the player is on a player layer. Layers are very useful because we can then control what objects can or can't collide with each other. This is going to help us to avoid the laser colliding with the player when we shoot it. It keeps things nice and clean. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and create our weapon by right-clicking on the player parent, empty game object. Let's call this one the single weapon. This is going to fire just a single laser from the front of the ship. We've already got it at the center of the ship, which is great. And we're going to want two child objects. Create empty on the weapon. This will be our fire point, the point where we are going to fire the laser. And as I mentioned in the intro, we're going to be using object pools to instantiate our laser. Just to refresh, for those who aren't familiar with object pools, rather than instantiate a new laser every time we shoot, to then be destroyed on collision with the enemy or obstacle, we're going to prepare a pool, instantiate a pool of say 20 lasers, set them all inactive, and the laser we want to shoot, we're going to select one of those lasers, set it as active. That'll be the laser that will be shot, and then when it would be destroyed, instead we're going to set it back inactive to return it back to the pool, and we're going to recycle through that same 20 laser objects. It's a really efficient way for shooting, especially if you have a weapon that is rapid fire, going to be shooting a high volume of game objects. This helps keep things clean and saves on memory. So that second game object, by duplicating Control-D, the fire point, will be our laser pool. And that's all we need for the single laser weapon for now. But before we get into the script, let's just better visualize the fire point. Select the fire point, select an icon, something nice and bright like this red diamond. Then let's get a good aerial view of the ship. Selecting the fire point, carefully place it in front of the ship as desired. That looks good to me. That way, when we shoot the laser, it'll be shot from the fire point, of course, and not from the body of the ship. That could cause complications. Then, when you're ready, let's go to the scripts folder, create an object pooler script, attach it to the laser pool, and let's open it up. Okay, it's first that we do the object pooler because ultimately this is where the weapon is going to get the game objects it wants to shoot. And for that, we're going to create a list for the pool, and we need to have using system.collections and system.collections.generic at the top in order to access lists and be able to play around with game objects. Then, at the top, let's punch in our variables. We want a public game object, the laser prefab we want to instantiate, and then how many of those laser prefabs do we want to instantiate into the pool. That'll be controlled by a public integer, the pool size. Then any and all laser prefabs instantiated will get added to the laser pool list, and that will be a list of game objects, so list game object called the laser pool. This list will help keep track of which objects are active or inactive. Speaking of which, let's go into start method and create that list. The laser pool list will equal a new list of game objects. Then what we want to do is cycle through it and continue to add a game object to that list until we've reached that maximum pool size. So for that, we'll create a for loop and we'll say for, in the brackets, int I equals 0, semicolon. Then if the value of I is less than the pool size, I++, add 1. What we want to add is a game object called laser. That'll equal, in the brackets there, a game object, instantiate the laser prefab object in the bracket. Then we want to set that laser object as false, laser.setActive false, and then add it to the laser pool list. Laser pool.add that game object of laser. And this will continue, like I said, until we've maximized and filled that pool. Once we've created our object pool, we then want to get one of those objects, set it active, and use it. For that, we'll create a new method below. That'll be a public game object that we want, get object. This will be called from the weapon script later. Inside, we're going to use a for each loop to cycle through that list and check to see which object is inactive. For each game object called laser, in the laser pool, if the laser is inactive in the hierarchy, then we're going to return the first one it finds. So return that laser. That'll be the lucky laser selected to be shot. As a fail-safe, if it turns out that we don't have enough lasers in the pool, then we can add some more if desired. So for that, to expand the pool if there are none, as per my annotation, game object, new laser, instantiate the laser prefab, and again, set that as false, add it to the laser pool, and then return and add that new laser. This is quite handy just in case we need to spill over and add more. That's what we need for the object pool. Let's hit save and head back into Unity. Let's fill out the object pool in the inspector. It's asking for the laser prefab. Drag the green laser in there like so and punch in your desired pool size. I'm going to go with 20 as that's worked quite well in testing. Now, what's going to happen when we select and set active one of these lasers from the fire point? We can do one of two things when it comes to weapon scripts or shooting. You can either apply a force from the weapon script itself, or you can have self-propelling projectiles, which is what we're going to do today. So for that, we want to set up a few things on our projectile. So for the laser green, or your own projectile, make sure you have a capsule collider or any sort of collider set as a trigger, and a rigid body, as we are going to apply physics to this in order to propel it forward. Then let's create in our scripts folder a laser script and open it up. For the variables, we want to have three things. First, a public float for the shot speed, of course, and then we're going to have a vector-free direction, which will be influenced by the weapon. And we're going to use the weapon's fire point for the direction we want to shoot. Then we want a public rigid body, RB, as we are going to apply a linear velocity to this based on that desired direction we want to travel. Then let's go down and create a method, shoot method, with a vector-free, our desired direction in the brackets. When we call upon this from the weapon controller, it is this that we will influence, that will determine the shot direction. So inside, let's punch in this dot direction, meaning this game object, will equal the desired direction. Then we'll apply that as a linear velocity. The rigid body dot linear velocity equals this dot direction multiplied by shot speed. That's all we need for shooting the laser. Now, when the laser collides with an enemy or the environment, like the ground or buildings, we want to set that laser back as inactive and return it back to the pool. For that, we'll do an on-trigger enter, collider other, and for now, we'll just create an if statement that says if the other.gameObject.layer is equal to 16. So in a moment, I'll show you that a tag of ground is on layer 16. Then the gameObject.setActive false. This sets it back as false, returns it back to the pool. That's all we need for the laser script for now. Hit save, and let's go and create a single weapon controller. For the variables, nice and simple, we only want two. We don't need a shot speed because we have self-propelling lasers, but we do want to get a public object pooler, the laser pool, which is the child object we created in the weapon, and of course the other child object, a public transform, the fire point. Next, let's create a shoot pool method, void shoot pool. First thing we want inside is a shot direction, a vector-free shot direction, and that'll equal the fire point dot forward. So when we shoot, it's going to be the forward vector of the fire point. We also want to get the laser from the laser pool with which to set active and shoot. So we're going to get a game object called laser. That'll equal the laser pool dot get object. So it's going to search through that pool, find the first inactive one. We want to set its position. The laser transform or the laser dot transform dot position will equal the fire point dot position. Same again with rotation. The laser dot transform dot rotation will equal the fire point dot rotation. And we also want to set that laser as active. Laser dot set active true. We also want to influence the direction of that laser as well. Therefore, the laser dot get component, the laser script dot shoot, and inside the brackets, we want it to be the shot direction dot normalized. This will influence the laser's direction here. And then finally, in update, we need an input with which to shoot. We'll use if input.get mouse button down 0, the left mouse button, then call upon the shoot pool. And that's it for the single weapon controller. Hit save. Let's head into Unity. Once everything is ready, select both the green and blue laser by holding down Control and left click. Let's scroll down and let's add that laser component, that laser script. Let's open it up and set the shot speed to 50. And let's drag and drop the rigid bodies in there like so. Make sure both of them are complete by just checking them both individually. That looks good. They're on the laser layer. If you open it up, you can see, like I mentioned before, ground is our 16th layer. So whenever the lasers hit the ground, or anything tagged as ground, they'll be set as false. Which, if you care to look in the environment there, you can see the ground is the terrain. Then let's go to the single weapon. And same again, this time we're going to add the single weapon controller. Drag and drop the desired things in there, fire point and the laser pool. In the laser pool, just make sure you have the correct laser you want. So laser green for now. Then let's test this out. And now as you fly around and left click, we are calling on the objects, setting them active on the pool. And when the lasers hit anything on the ground layer, like the ground, these hills, and these buildings, you can see they're being set back as inactive. And that's all we need for shooting from an object pool. We have our single laser created. But what if you wanted to create a twin laser, which we'll eventually upgrade to? Let's check it out. All you have to do to create the twin weapon is duplicate the single weapon. We've already done most of the work, except this time we're going to change the fire point's position to somewhere in front of the guns on the side, just like so. I've gone with 0.7 on X and minus 0.33 on Y. Then, all we're going to do, once I align the ship back, we're going to duplicate that fire point and we're going to mirror it, essentially. So this time it'll be on minus 0.7, and that's all we need. However, unlike the single weapon, we don't need the single weapon controller. We're going to create a modified version of this script. So let's go ahead and in the scripts folder, create a twin weapon controller and open it up. For the most part, this script is exactly the same as the single weapon, except we want to accommodate for two things. One, there being more than one fire point, and two, to decide which laser we want to fire, the twin green or the more powerful twin blue, so we can upgrade to it. And we're going to start with having a public object pooler again, the laser pool, and this time an additional plasma pool. We're going to have the public transform, but this time as an array of fire points. We're going to have the shot speed per a normal float, and a public pool is plasma. This is going to tell the weapon which of the lasers to shoot, the green or the blue plasma. Then, exactly like before, let's create a shoot pool method, only this time we're going to extend it. And we're going to start by saying for each, using a for each loop, for each transform FP in the fire points array, then select which pool of lasers we want to pull from for each of those fire points. If is plasma, we'll then get the blue plasma laser. Exactly like before, we'll have the vector free shot direction, the fire point dot forward. Only this time, we want to get the game object plasma from the plasma pool dot get object. And we'll create that pool in a moment. We want to get its position and rotation the same as the fire point, set it as active, and then give it that shot direction like before. Else, if we're not plasma, we're then going to shoot the standard green, and that is exactly like we did in the single weapon script, except this time it's for each of those FPs. And then don't forget to go into update, punch in the input, same again, hit save, and let's put this to the test. On the twin weapon, remove the single weapon controller. Let's add the twin weapon controller. Let's create that second plasma pool by duplicating the laser pool, renaming it plasma, and then just changing the laser prefab from green to the blue one. And we'll leave the pool size as 20. Then on the twin weapon, let's set it up with the fire points in the array. Just drag them there, it'll automatically add them. And the relative laser pool and plasma pool. We have the ball there that is plasma for us to toggle and decide whether we want this to be the plasma weapon or not. For the speed, 50 again. And let's do one final check of the laser blue to make sure that it has its own rigid body. So yeah, it says laser blue. I'll just make sure by dragging it in there again. Now let's go ahead and hit play. And now when we shoot, we're shooting 2 lasers from each fire point. If we change to is plasma, we then shoot the blue, more powerful plasma lasers. And that's all for today. We've created a single weapon, twin weapon, and they all call from an object pool for efficiency. In the next video, we're going to create a weapons manager to help keep these weapons organized and to decide which weapons to level up to when we collect a weapon up pickup. Please do look forward to that. Thank you all very much for watching, guys. I hope you're enjoying this project. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Please let us know how you're getting on, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.